Hey guys, retrostitchgaming here. As you know, if you're a fan of the channel, Mitchell is a massive classic survival horror fan. Me, on the other hand, not so much, because I'm a massive coward, you see, so... but I do enjoy Mitchell playing through the games because it does expand my knowledge, like, massively on the genre, so...
And you're starting to get into the genre a bit more, aren't you?
No. No, not at all, no.
If you do love classic survival horror like me, however, then the PS2 is where it's at, as this console is absolutely jam-packed full of survival horror goodness. Stuff like your Resident Evil and Silent Hills. There's so many games from both those amazing franchises, including, obviously, the amazing Resident Evil 4, which everyone loves, and Silent Hill 2, which is, in my opinion, one of the best survival horror games of all time. However, in this video, we're not going to be talking about either of those games or franchises, as we're going to be talking about 5 lesser-known survival horror games that can be found on this system, that you might have missed.
First up, we'll start with probably the best known series on the list, but we do think it sometimes tends to go under the radar, so we thought it was worth mentioning just in case.
Project Zero, or Fatal Frames it's known to those of you in the US, we think it's probably the scariest game on the list of the games that we're going to be talking about. It's the second we think the second game in the series is probably the strongest of the 3 games, but it's always best to start at the beginning in our opinion.
You play as a pair of siblings with the ability to see supernatural events who go to explore a haunted mansion in search of missing people, but find much more than you expected. Project Zero is a Japanese horror game set in an old haunted mansion. It screams Japanese horror films like The Ring or The Grudge, and although there's not a whole lot of jump scares or any blood, it's the overall eerie atmosphere that makes this game so terrifying. Yes, the overall level design is pretty much an RE/Silent Hill clone, but the combat and atmosphere are completely different, and the games do a great job of making you feel isolated and constantly worrying that you're not alone in a room. Another thing that makes you feel so vulnerable is that you can't technically defend yourself. The only way to fend off the many ghosts is with your trusty camera and taking pictures. It's a great start to a brilliant series, but like we said, the second game is much better.
Next up, we have The Suffering, which we bought for a whopping 50p off the car boot.
I actually only got around to playing this game for the first time not too long ago, and it just gripped me instantly and I couldn't put it down. It was amazing. I really enjoyed this game.
The Suffering is not quite your traditional survival horror, as it has quite a lot of action gameplay. It's really cool how you can switch between first and third person though, as well as being able to transform into a huge and powerful monster. You play Torque, a prisoner on death row for murdering his ex-wife and 2 kids, a crime he swears he didn't commit, saying he blacked out and can't remember a thing. Shortly after he arrives, an earthquake hits the prison, resulting in attacks from supernatural threats. Most of the enemies are based off methods of execution, such as decapitation, firing squad, hanging and lethal injection. Although not the scariest game out of the ones we're talking about, it still manages to build an isolated and tense atmosphere, and I really like the different style of play they put into this game.
Next up, we have, drumroll, Obscure. Creepy.
Obscure is a really unique survival horror game. It actually gives you the option to play in a co-op mode, which is really cool, and it's such a shame that more survival horror games didn't do this. And the thing that we really love about it is the cheesy 90s like horror movie vibes that it gives off, like a Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer sort of thing, don't it? Yeah.
You control 5 teenagers who you can swap between throughout the game as you get trapped in your school at night. You must explore the school to uncover the strange secrets of what's been going on there. You discover a conspiracy involving students being injected and mutated into monsters, which you must fight throughout the game. You discover that they are sensitive to light. The game has a really cool attribute where you can combine items together, such as taping a flashlight to your gun. Each of the 5 characters have their own ability, and if one of them die, then they remain dead for the rest of the game. The game's definitely worth checking out and even has a great sequel also on the PS2.
Next up, we have Haunting Ground. You have a dog in this game, so easily a 10 out of 10 for me.
I love this game. It's probably one of my favourite survival horror games, probably because I absolutely love Resident Evil, as you guys probably know, and this game just screams Resident Evil. The main character even looks like Jill Valentine, and you know my love for Jill Valentine. She's my all-time favourite game character, so
it sometimes even comes between our relationship.
In Haunting Ground, you play as Fiona, a young woman who awakes in a castle dungeon after being involved in a car accident. You quickly befriend a dog named Huey and together look for a way out of this nightmare and to uncover the mysteries of its inhabitants. The game shares a lot of similarities with Capcom's other series, Clock Tower, which leads many people to consider this game as its spiritual successor. A lot of the time, your only option is to hide from your enemies, which makes for some really heart-stopping moments. The really clever thing about this game though is that if you hide in the same place too often, then enemies will catch on to this and find you. An integral part of the game is commanding Huey. You must first, however, gain his trust. Once you do this, you can get him to do all manner of things, such as attack enemies, sniff out items, check suspicious areas or items, and be called back to your side. Enemies can hear your footsteps and certain sounds. When you're in dangerous situations, Fiona can panic, causing her to begin running on her own, or trip and bump into walls. Visibility also gets much worse and the menu can't be opened. Some items can be used to heal Fiona and Huey, but some can be used to damage enemies too, or as traps and distractions. The game's definitely worth checking out. It's a survival horror game made by Capcom, so of course it's good. It can really make you feel hopeless and get your adrenaline running, which is what you want from a survival horror.
Last but certainly not least, we have The Thing.
This is probably my favourite game on this list. I absolutely love the John Carpenter movie, The Thing, and this game acts as a direct sequel to that movie, and unlike most TV and movie tie-ins, which, let's be honest, are pretty dreadful, this game is incredible. John Carpenter actually loves this game himself and says it is the direct sequel to his movie, and he even does the voice for one of the characters in the game. You had actually never heard of the film or the game, had you, until I introduced you to the movie, and now you're a big fan of both, aren't you?
Well, I love Kurt Russell. He's great.
Who doesn't love Kurt Russell?
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't love Kurt Russell? But for me, the film is badass, the game is badass, and if you've not played the game, definitely, you've got to go out, you've got to buy it, you've got to play it. It's not expensive.
Oh,
so...
no, you can get it for a couple of quid or a couple of dollars, I'm guessing. It's definitely worth playing.
You play as Blake, a member of a US Special Forces team sent to investigate the outpost from the film to find out what happened. The basic gameplay is in the style of a traditional third-person shooter. One of my favourite things about the game is its unique NPCs who join you throughout, giving you up to 4 members in your team you can control. They can be soldiers, medics or engineers, and you can order them to do basic commands. If only it was that simple though. The NPC's AI is determined by a fear/trust system, which determines if they will join you or do as you ask. You must earn their trust in a variety of ways, such as arming them, proving you're not infected, or completing tasks for them. Some will join you straight away, which is always a worry and can make you paranoid as players, as anyone can be infected and transform into a thing at any time unexpectedly, which really adds a lot of tension to the game and constantly keeps you on edge. If you're a fan of the film and haven't played this game, you really should. It's such a great game and does a great job of honouring the amazing film.
So there you have it. 5 classic survival horror games for the PS2 that you might have missed. Hopefully you found something new on this list, but if not, I hope that you enjoyed the video anyway, and thank you so much for watching. The great thing about most of these games is that they have direct sequels, so it's going to add a lot more classic survival horror goodness to your collection. Also, a lot of these games are available on the original Xbox as well, so you don't have to miss out if you don't have a PS2.
Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please don't hesitate to smash that like button, and you can also subscribe to our channel for gaming content uploaded almost daily. Thank you so much for watching. We've been Retro Stitch Gaming, and we'll see you next time.